If what you're looking for are some dark reads, intense, emotional, dealing with societal problems, wealth disparity, global warming, turning to religion in times of crisis kind of reads, I have some books for you. If you follow me on social media, you know that I've recently, this year, been reading a lot of apocalyptic and post-apocalyptic literature. I am not the only one. A lot of people have been reading them lately. In this video, I'm talking about why reading these kind of books is important, why you need to read them, and where to start. So, as I said, in the last years, they've become increasingly popular with the pandemic, the war, everything that goes on in the world. We always turn to books for advice, for wisdom, for what to do in times of crisis, as well as for escape and ideas we resonate with. Apocalyptic and post-apocalyptic books give us all of these feelings and more. They give us a sense of preparedness. Through these kinds of reads, we are preparing for worst-case scenarios, at least in our minds. If you are like me, a bit anxious, you'll see that by reading these kind of things, your anxiety level drops a bit because you understand what may possibly come if worst comes to worst. You understand how society will possibly deal with something like an apocalyptic situation. Although the situations in these books are very grim, they are also hopeful. In absolutely each one of them, in the end, people come together, people turn to a higher purpose. They prevail only when they find a sense of community. There are endless books with this kind of subject, endless scenarios of how the world might end, but the best ones offer solutions as well. And the solution, the universal solution to whatever comes, is to not lose the sense of community and the sense of higher purpose. We see that in Station 11, where survival is not enough. We see that in the Earthseed series, where the idea of community is strong and revolves around the birth of a new religion. And this new religion, this new ideal is what makes people strive more, is what makes people relentless in achieving a goal. People who have a higher purpose have a lot more chances of succeeding in a harsh world. And the world today, the world we are living in, is comforting. It doesn't lack electricity. It has opportunities that might never ever present themselves as they present today. Really successful people, and success means happiness, family, a sense of peace. Successful people in this sense are the people who live for a higher purpose, are people who do more than just survive. We also see that in the After series by William Forstchen. This series revolves around the community values, the classical American values. This one is one of the most scientific accurate books I've read so far in this kind of literature. And the fact that it is written by a history professor tells us everything we need to know. It always underlines how situations like the ones in the book have always been present throughout history, and people have always overcome them, but they have done that through community, through unity. So it's such a wonderful and hopeful message in that book as well. We even see that in The Road, which is of course only about a father-son relationship, no community there, but the idea of good versus evil, of wrong and right still prevails. This idea that if worst comes to worst, when your own survival is in peril, good and bad change meaning, change importance, and people become cannibals. People do awful things. It's hard to not lose your humanity in harsh times, and yet it is the only way to actually live, not just survive. Survival without actual values is meaningless. So these are important books with absolutely important messages that will bring you interesting ideas, debatable ideas. They all make for some captivating debates, and of course they all make what you make of them, but they are a starting point for moral discussions. What is good, what is bad? When is survival more important than being good? What being good actually means when your own survival is threatened. I love this kind of discussions, and reading these books have sparked very interesting debates in my family. I hope you read them and find them at least as interesting as I did, especially because they are extremely entertaining as well. All the books I'm recommending now have kept me glued to them. Could not put them down once I started reading them. They were absolutely wonderful. These are my 3 recommendations you should be reading right now. The first one is Station 11. This book by Emily St. John Mandel is the story of a band performing Shakespeare plays after the world as we know it ended because of a virus that killed 99% of the population. So when all dust settles, when communities start to form, this band is what finally unites communities that have survived merely for a few years after the pandemic hit. This is the book that prompted me actually to read more apocalyptic literature. It is indeed special, beautifully written, hopeful, engaging. You love it. Another one is Earthseed by Octavia Butler. This story, it's a duology. Parable of the Sower and Parable of the Talents are amazing books. They are written from the perspective of a black 18-year-old woman who finds herself in an isolated community. There are already so many issues in the world with global warming. In her community, there is an acute lack of water. They only leave the community armed. The people are so poor, they have become very dangerous. And when her community crumbles as well, she is forced to move on. She is forced to go away to some better climate where water isn't that scarce. And on the road, she gathers around her an entire community. This community is the first seed in her Earthseed religion. We get to see her entire journey, her growing up, maturing. We get to see how the fact that she has a higher purpose, the fact that she believes so much in an ideal, in a world where even though now They don't have electricity, they don't even have phones. In that world, they will go back to ideals like before, and they will prevail, they will even conquer space. When you come from poverty to believe that someday one of your descendants will go to space, that is an important purpose. Having this kind of ideal, an ideal a little out of reach, will make you leave the world a better place for your grandsons and granddaughters. This kind of community, this kind of ideal, this is perfect. Yes, the book is violent. You'll see horrific scenes, especially towards women, because that is what happened along history all the time. When society breaks down, when no rules apply anymore, women and children suffer the most. The most vulnerable are in danger all the time. The entire book is so real. The violence makes sense. It is also horrific that it happens in 2025, and we are not far from that year. It is very plausible that things like that are in our future. So it is very much worth the read. Another good one is the After series by William Forstchen. This is a trilogy, 1 second after, 1 year after, and The Final Day are 3 amazing books. The writing is incredible in them. They start very slow, but they are worth the reading so much. These are scientifically accurate. They propose a world where an EMP weapon is released above the United States. This weapon is a real threat today. An electromagnetic pulse may render all electronics useless. You may not be aware of how much we rely on electronics today and electricity. It is amazing what this book tells us. From cars not running anymore, to water not being pumped anymore in higher areas, you are left with no medicine, no food, no nothing. And in this kind of world, of course, there will be those who will attack. There will be those who are unprepared now, but with weapons, people will become desperate in a matter of days. Law and order will be gone completely. In this world, a small community continues to live fine. They continue rather well because of their sense of unity around American values. They put as their leader a history professor with military experience who actually understands what happened in the world throughout history, how people reacted, how wars were fought, and this is what saves them. These books have become a lot more popular these days because the world today is too comfortable for our own good. This is Maria from Read Fine Books. Thank you for watching.